It's official. Max Verstappen just rewrote the history books, and Mercedes are not happy at all about it. In fact, they've come out and said bad things about the Dutchman and his era of success. There's plenty of intriguing words being thrown around by both Lewis Hamilton and Toto Wolff, so stick around till the end of the video to get the full scoop. Formula One superstar Max Verstappen carved his name into the history books on Sunday, clinching his 10th consecutive victory and extending his remarkable season of dominance with a triumph at the Italian Grand Prix. Verstappen, behind the wheel for Red Bull Racing, shattered a record that had stood for a decade, the 9 consecutive wins set by Sebastian Vettel, a 4-time world champion who was also part of the Red Bull team during his victorious run. Verstappen shared his excitement over the team radio immediately after crossing the finish line and securing the victory, telling his crew, "Another win, and a nice one too as well. That's a nice stat." And after the race, he told interviewers, "I never would have believed that was possible, but we had to work for it today, so that made it definitely a lot more fun." At the age of 25, Verstappen achieved a milestone by equaling Vettel's record last week, clinching the victory at his home race in the Netherlands. With his impressive performance, he's currently poised to secure his 3rd World Championship title this year. Following in the footsteps of Verstappen and Vettel, the next entries in that prestigious record book belong to 3 Formula One drivers who achieved the remarkable feat of winning 7 races consecutively: Alberto Ascari, Michael Schumacher, and Nico Rosberg. Verstappen's victory on Sunday was far from a simple affair. He began the race in 2nd place, with Ferrari's Carlos Sainz in the lead after securing pole position at his team's home race. Sainz impressively held off Verstappen's initial efforts to challenge for the lead, but it wasn't until lap 15 that Verstappen managed to make his move and overtake him. After snatching the world title from Hamilton in a contentious 2021 campaign filled with back-and-forth exchanges and 2 memorable crashes, Verstappen is now making a strong push for a 3rd consecutive championship. In contrast, Hamilton has not clinched a victory since that season. Verstappen currently holds a commanding lead in the drivers' standings, with a 145-point advantage over his teammate Sergio Perez. He has secured an impressive 12 victories in the season, compared to Perez's 2. Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time champion driving for Mercedes, tried to diminish the significance of Verstappen's accomplishment ahead of the race, despite his own impressive streak of 5 consecutive wins. Just a day after Sir Lewis inked a 2-season contract extension with Mercedes, his psychological battle with Max Verstappen has reignited. The 7-time world champion thinks that he has consistently had stronger teammates than Verstappen. If you haven't seen it yet, here's what he said. "The narrative that goes through the media, when I qualified half a second, 6/10 ahead of Valtteri, they didn't say the same thing as they say today when Max qualifies 6/10 ahead of Perez. It's blown up much more. And in my personal opinion, Valtteri and actually all my teammates have been stronger than the teammates that Max has had. Jenson Button, Fernando Alonso, George Russell, Valtteri, Nico Rosberg, I've had so many. These guys have all been very consistent, and Max has not raced against anyone like that." Sky Sports analyst Martin Brundle responded with surprise to Hamilton's comments, saying he's not going to give Max an ounce of oxygen or anything to pick him up. Surprised just how hard he was there. Yes, of course, Lewis has had some strong teammates, but I wouldn't write off the likes of Daniel Ricciardo and Sergio Perez, who Max has had alongside him either. They're world-class racing drivers, but Lewis just doesn't want to give anything away, does he? Since Sir Lewis made those comments, Max Verstappen has clapped back. The Dutchman believes that jealousy might be the underlying reason for Lewis Hamilton saying that he hasn't encountered as formidable challenges from his teammates in Formula One compared to the 7-time champion. At Monza, Verstappen issued his response, telling the media, "Maybe he's a little bit jealous of our current success. I don't know why he says that. Maybe he thinks there is something to win or defend with comments like that, but for me it doesn't matter at all." Hamilton's remarks followed Mercedes boss Toto Wolff's recent statements that had drawn criticism from Verstappen and the Red Bull team. Wolff had suggested that the RB19 had been tailored entirely to match the Dutchman's driving style, sparking controversy in the Formula One community. Verstappen sees the nature of the criticisms directed at Red Bull is a sign that Mercedes is grappling with the reality that they are no longer the dominant force in Formula One. He said, I think it's very difficult for Mercedes to deal with losing. That's the problem you have when you've won for so many years, of course. But at the end of the day, you have to be realistic as well. If it's not possible to win, then it's not possible. You have to be able to appreciate what other teams are doing as well. We did that in the years when Mercedes dominated. Back then, we just said to ourselves, we have to work harder, because at that time we were simply not good enough compared to them. You can keep saying that the things we are achieving at the moment are not that special, or at least that is probably what they think. But in the end, you just have to focus on yourself, because that is the only thing you can influence. Toto Wolff believes that despite the attention garnered by Hamilton's comments regarding Verstappen, it's simply a case of some friendly banter between rival drivers, saying that, obviously the drivers like to poke each other, but then you can see that Lewis raced world champions, he raced Jensen, he raced Fernando, and he raced Nico. But I don't want to, in any way, diminish anybody's performance, because Max in the car is outstanding. It's just part of the fun. Funnily enough, just like his superstar driver, Toto came out on the attack against Verstappen as well. Wolff has taken the air out of the Dutchman's record-breaking F1 victory at the Italian Grand Prix, referring to it as something that's only relevant for the Wikipedia pages. Sunday's achievement marked the Dutchman's 12th triumph out of 14 races in the 2023 season, as he continues his impressive pursuit of a third consecutive world title. However, Wolff didn't seem overly awed by Verstappen's historic achievement. In a subtle jab thrown at Red Bull's continued dominance in the sport, Wolff told Sky, "I don't know whether he, Verstappen, cares about the record. It's not something that would bother me, any of those numbers. It's for Wikipedia. Nobody reads that anyway." And as for Red Bull's other driver, Sergio Perez has a few regrets about how he raced during the Italian GP. Checo acknowledged that he made a mistake by disregarding Red Bull team orders during the Italian Grand Prix. The Mexican driver, who began the race in 5th place and finished in 2nd place, admitted that his afternoon became more challenging than necessary due to his failure to adhere to his team's instructions. Despite being positioned behind George Russell during the initial laps, Perez received instructions to pit before any of the drivers ahead of him, aiming to employ the undercut strategy. However, he opted to disregard this directive and continued on the track. Eventually, he successfully executed the overtake. Later on, he managed to catch up and pass the two Ferrari cars, ultimately securing the 1-2 finish for the team. Looking back, he says that his job would have been a whole lot easier if only he had listened to the team. He said, "It was very difficult from the beginning. Russell was very hard to pass. Then the team sent me to pits and I decided to stay out, to try to avoid the undercut from Russell. Perhaps, if I had listened to the team, everything would have been easier. It was just patience from then on with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz and got on podium." Perez might have had an outside shot at contending for the victory if he hadn't lost a significant amount of time while battling with Russell. He found himself trailing Verstappen by 6 seconds on the track, with the Dutchman carefully managing his car's condition as Red Bull monitored rising temperatures on a scorching afternoon at Monza. In your opinion, were the comments made by Lewis Hamilton and Toto Wolff coming from a place of jealousy, or were they simply speaking facts? And do you think Max Verstappen responded with class? Tell us what you think in the comments section down below. And, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching.